Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? Like you're caught in a whirlwind of expectations, constantly trying to please others while your own voice gets lost in the noise? What if I told you that the key to finding true happiness lies not in meeting others' standards, but in embracing your own? That the moment you stop living for approval and start living for yourself, everything changes. Think about it. All those times you've bent over backward to fit in, to gain the validation of those around you, what have you really gained? Perhaps a momentary sense of satisfaction, but deep down there's that lingering emptiness, that nagging feeling that something's missing. The truth is, we've been taught to chase approval, but in doing so, we've been losing the one thing that truly matters, our own freedom. It's time to break free from that cycle, to stop living to meet others' expectations, and to start living in a way that aligns with your own values. When you do that, something profound happens. You unlock a kind of peace and contentment that no external validation could ever provide. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, how letting go of the need for approval can set you on the path to living authentically, embracing your true self, and finding the kind of happiness that's been waiting for you all along. Section 1. The root of our unhappiness. Let's take a moment to reflect on something that touches each of us, regardless of age, race, or background: our pursuit of happiness. We often hear about finding happiness through success, wealth, or recognition. But what if I told you that the true root of our unhappiness can be traced to something much simpler, yet much more profound? According to Kishimi and Koga, the real cause of suffering is our dependence on others' opinions. In simpler terms, we become slaves to the judgments and expectations of those around us. It's as though we've handed over the key to our own contentment, allowing others to control it, and in doing so, we lose our true sense of self. It's a common struggle, particularly as we grow older, when the weight of past judgments, unspoken expectations, and fears of rejection can follow us like shadows, clouding our happiness. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever made a decision simply to please someone else? How often have you found yourself seeking approval, whether it's from a colleague, a friend, or even family? The more we rely on external validation, the more we become like a leaf caught in the wind, constantly tossed and turned by the whims of others. We're no longer grounded in who we are. Instead, we drift away from our essence, swept along by the approval or disapproval of those around us. And as we age, this tendency doesn't necessarily diminish. In fact, it can become even more pronounced as we reflect on our lives, wondering if we've lived up to the expectations set by others. It's easy to feel that way, isn't it? Especially when society, with its subtle but persistent pressures, tells us how to behave, what to achieve, and whom to impress. Over time, this pursuit of acceptance begins to feel like a never-ending race, where the finish line keeps moving further away. We might tell ourselves that we want to make our parents proud or fit in with a social group, but deep down, we might feel lost, unsure of who we really are and what we truly want. It's as though we're walking on a path that isn't even our own. Now, let's take a moment to turn inward, as Buddhism so often encourages. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not just a random occurrence. It comes from attachment, a profound attachment to things, beliefs, and most dangerously, the approval of others. We cling to the idea that our worth is determined by others' views of us. But here's the truth. When we depend on others for our self-worth, we give away the very thing that makes us strong, our personal power. We let the opinions of others dictate how we feel about ourselves, allowing them to shape our mood, our decisions, and even our sense of purpose. It's like we've become puppets, and those around us are pulling the strings. And here's the thing, it doesn't stop with the approval of others. We also attach ourselves to beliefs about who we should be, what we should have achieved by now, and how we should look. It's a kind of mental and emotional bondage. We lock ourselves in a cage of expectations, both external and self-imposed, and wonder why we feel trapped. Why, no matter how much we accomplish, we feel a persistent emptiness inside. We think we need that next compliment, that next like, that next recognition to feel validated. But does that validation ever truly satisfy us? Or does it only leave us craving more? The Buddha said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought." What a profound statement. It reminds us that our reality is shaped by our thoughts. If we constantly seek external validation, we are in essence chasing after something that is fleeting. We're not living in the present moment, nor are we grounded in our true selves. Instead, we are perpetually looking outside ourselves for the next form of approval, the next badge of honor, the next sense of being good enough. But what if we could release that attachment? What if, instead of worrying about how others perceive us, we focused on how we perceive ourselves? What if we allowed ourselves to simply be? This is where Buddhist wisdom offers us a way forward. Buddhism teaches us that peace and happiness come from within, not from the approval of others. It's a radical idea, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded by messages telling us to seek external validation. But think about it. When we let go of our attachment to what others think, we free ourselves to live authentically. We stop chasing something that doesn't last, and instead, we find lasting fulfillment in the present moment. We begin to make decisions based on our own values, not based on what we think will make others like us. And that's when true peace begins. So I ask you, how much of your life have you lived for others? How often have you shaped your decisions, your actions, and your sense of self around what others expect or think? And how much longer are you willing to let others control your happiness? It's time to step out of the shadows of others' opinions and into the light of your own truth. If we want to live in alignment with our true selves, we must let go of the attachment to approval and instead focus on what truly matters to us. Buddhism teaches that happiness is not a destination to be reached, but a state of being that we can cultivate right here, right now. And it starts with letting go of the need for approval. It starts with embracing who we are, without the fear of judgment, without the need to please anyone. Only then can we begin to experience true freedom. Freedom from the opinions of others, and freedom to live a life that is uniquely ours. Section 2. The illusion of approval. As the years pass, many of us find that the desire for validation becomes more deeply rooted, like a stubborn vine creeping through the walls of our existence. The older we get, the more we feel the weight of expectations bearing down on us. Whether it's the pressure from family to meet certain milestones, from friends to live up to shared ideals, or from society to fit a prescribed mold. It's almost as if we're walking a tightrope, precariously balancing on the thin line between who we are and who others think we should be. One misstep, one mistake, and it feels like we might fall into a pit of disapproval and rejection. It's so easy to get caught in this web of approval seeking. The thing is, we've been conditioned for most of our lives to believe that the key to a good life, a meaningful life, is to be liked. Think about it. How many of us have spent countless hours, days, or even years striving to meet the expectations of others, trying desperately to fit in, to gain the favor of those around us? From the time we're children, we're taught that to be good, to be worthy, we must be accepted by those we look up to. Whether it's a teacher's approval, a friend's praise, or society's applause, we internalize the idea that being liked equals being good. But is it really that simple? And when we finally achieve this recognition, do we truly feel fulfilled? Buddhism invites us to challenge this fundamental belief. It offers a radically different perspective, one that encourages us to free ourselves from the chains of approval. Buddhism teaches us that the pursuit of recognition is a cycle, an endless, often futile cycle. At first it feels like the answer to all our desires. If we can just meet someone else's expectations, we'll finally feel good about ourselves. But this chase for validation is a slippery slope. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing battle, a race with no finish line. The more you try to satisfy others, the more you lose sight of your own desires, your own essence. You become so focused on meeting the demands of others that you forget to ask yourself, what do I truly want? What makes me happy? And here's the kicker, the worst part of it all. Even when you succeed in fulfilling others' expectations, you're often left feeling empty, unfulfilled. You've played the part, you've done everything right, and yet there's no lasting sense of joy. You've won their approval, yes, but at what cost? You've lived your life to please someone else, not yourself. You've worn a mask so carefully crafted to meet someone else's ideals, but underneath that mask, you feel a deep sense of disconnection, of loss. Why? Because in your quest to be liked, you've lost touch with the most important relationship you have, the one with yourself. Buddhism teaches that this endless pursuit of approval only deepens our suffering. It keeps us trapped in a cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. You reach one goal, but the satisfaction is fleeting. You meet one person's expectation, but there's always another waiting around the corner. It's as if you're constantly chasing a shadow, never able to fully grasp it. And each time you fail to meet an expectation, whether it's yours or someone else's, the disappointment cuts deeper, as though your worth is contingent on your ability to meet an ever-changing standard. But here's the thing, you are not your achievements. You are not the sum of others' judgments. You are not the mask you wear to fit in. The real freedom comes when you stop seeking others' approval and start living in alignment with your true self. When you no longer let the opinions of others determine your happiness, you reclaim your power. It's like breaking free from the shackles that have held you prisoner for so long. You can finally breathe. You can finally be yourself unapologetically, without fear of judgment or rejection. Now that doesn't mean you stop caring about others altogether. It doesn't mean you withdraw from relationships or become indifferent to the people around you. Buddhism teaches us about compassion, about being kind and understanding toward others. But there's a profound difference between caring for others and living for others. When you live for others, when your every action is motivated by the desire for their approval, you end up losing the essence of who you are. When you live for yourself, in alignment with your own values and beliefs, you can still give to others, but it comes from a place of abundance, not need. It comes from a place of self-respect, not self-doubt. It's a subtle but powerful shift. Instead of seeking validation from the outside world, you start seeking validation from within. Instead of asking, "Am I good enough for them?" you start asking, "Am I good enough for me?" And the answer, my friend, is always yes. Because you are inherently worthy of love and respect, not because of what you do or how well you fit into someone else's mold, but because you exist. You are a human being with your own unique gifts, flaws, and experiences. And that in itself is enough. The desire for recognition is not inherently bad. We all want to feel seen, valued, and understood. But when that desire becomes the driving force behind your decisions, when it defines your sense of self-worth, it becomes a trap. It traps you in a cycle of endless seeking, always looking outside yourself for something that can only be found within. True peace comes when you realize that the only approval you need is your own. As you reflect on this, Think about the times in your life when you've sought approval from others. How often did you find satisfaction in meeting someone else's expectations? And how many times did you feel unfulfilled, even after receiving that validation? This is the illusion of approval. It promises happiness, but it only delivers momentary contentment before leaving you yearning for more. The real secret to happiness, to peace, lies not in meeting others' expectations, but in living for yourself. When you embrace your own worth, you begin to live a life that is truly fulfilling, one that is rooted in authenticity, not in the need for validation. Section 3. Breaking free. The courage to be disliked. There's something deeply liberating in this simple yet profound idea, the courage to be disliked. It might sound a bit strange at first, even contradictory. After all, don't we all want to be liked? Isn't being accepted by others an essential part of feeling connected and valued in this world? And yet, here we are, suggesting that the very thing we fear, the possibility of being disliked, is the very thing we need to embrace in order to live an authentic life. It's a paradox that can feel unsettling at first, but once you begin to understand it, it opens up an entirely new way of thinking about freedom and happiness. Take a moment with me. Close your eyes if you can. Think about the choices you've made throughout your life, especially those decisions that were deeply influenced by the opinions of others. How many times have you made a choice simply because you wanted to please someone? Maybe it was your parents' expectations, your partner's desires, or even the pressure of society's ideals. Maybe you wore a smile, even when your heart wasn't in it, just to keep the peace, just to keep them happy. How often have you sacrificed your own happiness, your own peace of mind, just to win the approval of someone else? Now think about how that felt. Deep down, did you feel fulfilled? Or did it leave you with a sense of emptiness, like you were living a life that wasn't entirely your own? I'm willing to bet that, like most of us, you've found yourself in that very situation time and again, choosing what was right in the eyes of others, while neglecting what was true for you. It's a natural part of the human experience. We crave connection. We want to be seen, heard, and validated. But here's the crux of it. When we let the opinions of others govern our decisions, we're not truly living for ourselves. We're living to fit into a mold that may not even be ours. What if instead you could release that fear, the fear of being disliked? What if instead of constantly measuring your worth by how much others like you, you started living in a way that aligns with your own values and desires? It's a radical shift, but imagine the weight it would lift off your shoulders when you no longer fear being disliked. When you let go of the need to be approved of, you free yourself. You free yourself to make choices that resonate with your soul, not with the expectations of others. You're no longer bound by the chains of approval, but instead, you're empowered to follow your true path, wherever it may lead. This is where Buddhism offers us some of its most profound wisdom. It teaches us that true peace comes from within. It doesn't come from meeting others' expectations or from being constantly validated by the outside world. Buddhism doesn't ask us to shut ourselves off from the world or from others. No, the Buddha himself was all about connection, love, and compassion. But there's a difference between being open to others and living for others. Buddhism teaches that it's essential to understand that we have the right to live life on our own terms, terms that are shaped by our own values, not by the opinions of the people around us. The courage to be disliked is not about rejecting others. It's not about becoming indifferent or dismissing the feelings and needs of those around you. It's about realizing that you don't need to bend yourself out of shape to gain the approval of others. It's about giving yourself permission to stand tall in your own truth, regardless of who agrees with you. Imagine, just for a moment, what it would be like to live in that kind of freedom. A freedom where you are no longer defined by others' judgments, where you can embrace the full spectrum of who you are, flaws and all, without fear of rejection. Doesn't that sound like true liberation? But here's the thing. This kind of freedom doesn't come easy. It requires a shift in perspective. It requires the kind of courage that's not often talked about. The courage to be vulnerable, to let go of the comfort of conformity, and to step into the unknown space of self-trust. It's not always easy to let go of the need for approval, especially when it's been a driving force in our lives for so long. But what if, instead of constantly chasing approval, you took a step back and asked yourself, what do I truly want? What do I value? What does a meaningful life look like to me, independent of anyone else's opinions? This is where the magic happens. When you start making decisions that are aligned with your own heart, when you start living a life that's true to you, you will find that the world opens up in ways you never imagined. Sure, there may be moments when people don't understand your choices, when they don't like you, or when they question your decisions. But guess what? That's okay. In fact, it's a sign that you're doing something right. Because when you have the courage to be disliked, you are no longer chained to the whims of others. You are free to live authentically, to walk the path that is uniquely yours. And that's the beauty of this concept. The more you embrace the idea of being disliked, the less power others' opinions hold over you. It's like shedding a heavy coat that's been weighing you down for years. You stand taller, walk with more confidence, and breathe easier because you know, deep down, that you are enough just as you are. You don't need anyone's approval to validate your worth. You have your own approval, and that's all that matters. This, my friend, is the kind of freedom that Buddhism points us toward. It's the freedom to live in alignment with our true selves, to follow the path of our heart, and to release the need for external validation. In doing so, we find peace. Not just the peace that comes from pleasing others, but the deeper, more lasting peace that comes from living in harmony with who we truly are. So I challenge you, what if today you took that first step? What if today you decided that your happiness is worth more than others' approval? What if you chose to live for yourself, to follow your own values, and to embrace the freedom that comes with being disliked? The world might not always understand, but you'll find a deep sense of peace in knowing that you are living authentically. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Section 4. The Story of the Elder Monk. In the heart of a serene, quiet village nestled between rolling hills, there lived an elderly monk who was renowned for his wisdom and tranquility. The villagers often sought him out for advice, for it was said that simply being in his presence brought peace. His monastery, a humble yet beautiful structure of wood and stone, overlooked the lush green fields where the seasons unfolded like a slow, graceful dance. He was the kind of man who radiated calm, someone whose every word seemed to hold the secret to living a meaningful life. One sunny afternoon, a young man, restless and troubled, arrived at the monastery. His eyes were filled with anxiety, his posture hunched under the weight of invisible burdens. He had heard of the monk's wisdom and hoped more than anything to find some relief from the turmoil that churned within him. "Master," the young man began, his voice trembling, "I have spent my whole life seeking approval. I've done everything I could to make my family proud. I've met society's expectations, followed the rules, worked tirelessly to fit in. But despite all of that, no matter what I do, I feel empty inside. I feel like I'm living for others, but I've lost myself along the way. What should I do?" The monk listened carefully, nodding slightly as the young man poured out his heart. The weight of his words hung in the air, heavy with years of silent struggle. The young man expected a long lecture, maybe a list of ways to earn more respect, to be more successful, to continue on the path of validation he had been treading for so long. But instead the elder monk smiled gently and spoke in a calm, soothing voice. "You have carried the weight of many," the monk said, his eyes twinkling with a depth of understanding. "But in doing so, you've forgotten to carry yourself. You've lived to please others, to meet their expectations, but in doing so, you've abandoned your own peace. The key to happiness, my young friend, lies not in meeting others' expectations, but in living according to your own truth." The words struck the young man like a lightning bolt. He stood there, momentarily speechless, his mind racing. "Live according to my own truth," he thought. What did that even mean? He had spent so many years following a path that was not his own, a path defined by what others wanted from him. How could he suddenly throw it all away? How could he live for himself when he had been taught his whole life that his worth was determined by others' approval? For a moment, he wanted to protest. He wanted to say, "But if I stop trying to please others, will they still love me?" He wanted to argue, "What about my family? What about the friends I've worked so hard to impress?" But the monk's calm smile, the quiet strength in his eyes, made him pause. There was something in those eyes that suggested the elder had seen this struggle before. There was something in his voice that made the young man realize that perhaps, just perhaps, he had been going about life all wrong. After a few moments of silence, the monk spoke again, his words simple but profound. "To live for others is to build a life on a foundation that is not your own. It may seem stable for a while, but it will always shake beneath you. The foundation of your happiness must be built on your own understanding, your own choices. Your worth is not measured by how well you fit into others' expectations, but by how closely you align your life with your own truth." The young man sat down, the weight of the monk's words sinking in. He thought about all the times he had bent over backward, trying to be the person others wanted him to be. He thought about the hollow feeling he had experienced every time he earned someone's praise, only to find that it never quite filled the emptiness inside. In his pursuit of approval, he had neglected the one relationship that truly mattered, the relationship with himself. The monk left him there to meditate, to sit with these thoughts. Hours passed, and as the sun began to set, the young man's mind started to settle. He realized that the approval he had been chasing was like chasing the wind. No matter how much he tried to catch it, it would always slip through his fingers. What he truly craved was something deeper, a sense of inner peace, a life lived on his own terms, a connection to his own heart. That evening, as the stars began to twinkle above the monastery, the young man made a decision. He would no longer live his life to meet the expectations of others. He would no longer let the judgments and opinions of the world define who he was. Instead, he would listen to his own heart and follow the path that resonated with his true self. He would stop chasing approval and start embracing his own authenticity. The next morning, as he prepared to leave the monastery, the monk approached him once more. "So, what will you do now?" he asked, his voice full of gentle encouragement. The young man smiled, a smile that came from a place of deep understanding. "I will begin a new journey," he said. "A journey not of seeking approval, but of living in alignment with my own truth. I have spent so many years living for others, but now it's time to live for myself." The monk nodded, his eyes filled with pride. "That is the true path to happiness," he said softly. "It is not an easy journey, but it is the only one that will bring you lasting peace." And so the young man left the monastery, his heart lighter than it had ever been. He was no longer burdened by the weight of other people's expectations. He had found the courage to be himself, to live authentically and follow the rhythm of his own heart. And with that newfound freedom, he began to experience a peace that had always been there, waiting for him to embrace it. As he walked away from the monastery, the wind gently brushed his face, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly at home with himself. The pursuit of approval no longer mattered. He had found something far more precious, the joy of living as his true self. The lesson the monk had shared with him stayed in his heart forever. Live according to your own truth, and the world will fall into place. The approval you seek is already within you. Section 5. Embrace your freedom. Let's take a deep breath and come back to the present moment. We spend so much of our lives caught up in the rush, in the expectations, and in the constant search for approval. But right here, right now, we have the incredible gift of reclaiming our freedom. No matter how old we are, no matter where we've been in life, we always have the power to choose how we live from this point forward. This is the beauty of living in the present moment. I want you to stop for a second and really consider this. What does freedom mean to you? For many of us, the idea of freedom is often tied to escaping obligations or breaking free from external pressures. But Buddhist teachings remind us that true freedom is not about escaping the obstacles life throws our way. It's not about living a life without challenges. No, the freedom that Buddhism speaks of is the freedom of the mind, the ability to choose how we respond to the things we face. It's the understanding that no matter what happens, we are in control of how we react, how we live, and most importantly, how we define our happiness. When you stop living for the approval of others, when you let go of the need to constantly seek validation, you begin to open the door to your true self. It's like stepping out of a cage you've been locked in for years. You've carried the weight of others' expectations on your shoulders for so long that it's become part of you, a heavy burden that you've come to believe is necessary. But when you free yourself from that weight, you discover that the life you were always meant to live was waiting for you the entire time. It was always within your reach, but you had to be willing to let go of the false sense of security that approval brings. I ask you now, what would your life look like if you stopped living for others and started living for yourself? Picture it. Imagine a life where you wake up each day excited not because you're trying to meet someone else's expectations, but because you're living in alignment with your true self. A life where your choices are guided by what feels right for you, not by the pressure of what others think you should do. Can you feel the weight lifting just thinking about it? It might seem like an impossible dream at first. After all, we've spent so much of our lives doing just the opposite, seeking approval, measuring our worth by how others see us. But I promise you this, once you start making decisions based on your own truth, the world will begin to unfold in ways you never imagined. The fear of disapproval starts to fade, and in its place, something beautiful emerges, the peace that comes from living authentically. Now let me ask you a question that's been on my mind for a while. What if you stopped chasing the approval of others and started creating a life that is true to you? Think about that. What if you could take all the energy you've spent on trying to please others and redirect it towards something far more fulfilling, living a life that resonates with your core values and deepest desires? Imagine the clarity, the confidence, and the joy that would come from knowing that the life you're living is your own. But here's the thing, it's not about rejecting others or turning your back on relationships. This isn't about living in isolation. It's about setting boundaries. It's about prioritizing yourself And it's about remembering that your happiness, your peace, and your well-being are not dependent on anyone else's approval. Relationships can still be nurturing and meaningful, but they become much more authentic when you're living as your true self, not as someone who's constantly trying to be what others want. When you start to live for yourself, the rules of the game change. Suddenly, you're the one who sets the goals for your life. You're the one who defines what success looks like for you. And the most powerful part of all this is that when your goals align with your true values, peace and contentment follow naturally. No more second-guessing, no more wondering if you're doing enough or being enough. You're enough simply because you're living authentically, in alignment with who you really are. And that, my friend, is where the magic happens. When you live in this way, something beautiful starts to shift inside you. You no longer have to constantly prove your worth to others. You stop seeking external validation because you no longer need it. Instead, you develop a deep trust in yourself. You begin to understand that you are the creator of your own life, and the choices you make are the ones that truly matter. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness doesn't come from achieving things, from gaining recognition, or from meeting expectations. It comes from being at peace with who we are right now, as we are. And the path to that peace is through living authentically, embracing your true nature, and letting go of the need for approval. It's about realizing that the freedom to live your life on your own terms is already within you. All you need to do is step into it. So I leave you with this. What would your life look like if you embraced your freedom, starting today? What if you began to make decisions based on what truly matters to you, not on what others expect? The beauty of this journey is that it's yours to create. You get to choose how it unfolds. And when you make that choice, when you step into the freedom of living for yourself, you'll find a happiness that is so much deeper and richer than anything external validation can ever provide. And isn't that what we've been searching for all along? Peace, contentment, and the joy of living authentically. You already have everything you need to create that life. It's time to reclaim your freedom. Imagine, just for a moment, standing at the edge of a vast ocean. You've spent your entire life swimming against the current, fighting against forces that weren't even yours to fight. But now, as you stand there, you realize that the tide has changed. The storm of expectations, judgments, and fears has finally settled, and before you lies the peaceful, open sea, your sea. The journey you've longed for is not about conquering the world outside, but about aligning with the calm waters within you. When you let go of the need for approval, you stop being tossed around by the waves of others' opinions. You become the captain of your own ship, charting your own course, no longer afraid to sail through uncharted waters. Your happiness is not a distant shore that you need to reach, but the wind in your sails, propelling you forward with confidence, with authenticity, and with peace. So, I ask you one last time, what if you stopped searching for approval and began living the life you were always meant to lead? What if, for once, you gave yourself permission to live for you? When you do, you'll discover something far more beautiful than any validation the world can offer. The deep, unwavering peace of knowing that you've chosen to be exactly who you are. No apologies, no compromises. And in that freedom, you'll find happiness. True, lasting happiness. Not because you've met others' expectations, but because you've met your own. You've found the courage to be yourself. And that, my friend, is the most powerful choice you'll ever make.